All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Shiva Kittusamy. I'm one of the instructors here at UNR Extension Small Business Education Program. We have an amazing class today titled Why Should Anyone Be Led by You? It is being taught by one of my dear friends and old professors, Sam Bickert, which she will introduce herself and a little bit more about her background in a sec. Before I pass it on to her, I'd like to just give a little introduction on our program, what we do, in case if anyone here is new and doesn't know anything about the small business education program that we have. So a little background, UNR Extension Small Business Education Program provides free business education to any small business or startup owner at any level and age for free. It's super cool. A lot of people say, how can you do it for free? There must be some catch. And I tell everyone that, hey, like, there's no catch. It is tax dollars really going to work. And for me, it's very meaningful because I'm literally passing on information, really great information to individuals starting their entrepreneurship journey. To go more into our program, I'd love to introduce you to our website. So if you go on Google, you just type in UNR SBEP, go to this first link right here. This is going to be our main webpage. We do both in-person classes. So if you're here in Southern Nevada, you can come into our office and actually take our classes in person. We also do these online Zoom classes as well. So be on the lookout for that. And these Zoom classes make sure our resources are accessible to a lot more people than just here in Southern Nevada. And speaking of classes, we have a couple different pillars that we focus on for our classes, such as finance, marketing, operation, management, and startups. So I'll go into that in just a sec. But if you want to take a look at our upcoming classes, you can just click this guy. As you can see, we have a ton of classes here that we're going to be teaching throughout this month and next month. And some of these are virtual and some of these aren't virtual. So if, for example, you want to click on one of these that is in person, such as Money Smart Risk Management, you can just click this guy and you can actually hit this guy and register. We also do have some virtual classes, like I said before. So if you were registering for this class, for example, you can actually hit this view stream information and register for the Zoom class. Couple other things that we have. We have our virtual classroom. So if you wanted to take a look at one of our different pillars, we actually have a whole list of videos recorded, pre-recorded, and up on our YouTube. So the easiest way to access specific videos is just hit virtual classroom. And actually, if you wanted topics in marketing, for example, you can actually click this marketing button and you can actually click one of these classes. So Facebook Business Basics, for example, you can just click this guy. It's actually a full length, long class. It's a whole hour long class. Some of these are hours, some of these are 30 minutes, some of these are 20 minutes. But these are full classes that we've pre-recorded and made available to everyone out there in the world. And one last thing I always like telling people too, if you do want to stay in the loop with our program, you can sign up for our newsletter. And I highly recommend checking out our podcast. If you are a podcast listener, we actually have a great podcast where we have people on our podcast that are within the small business or startup ecosystem. And you can really get a lot of cool tidbits on different things, whether that's legal matters or accounting matters or even banking matters. We've had some great podcast guests from some great establishments. So yeah, that's a little bit of background on our program. Oh, one last thing too before I pass it on to Sam. We do have a program also in Spanish. So if you want to see our program in Spanish, there is also an option for that as well. With that being said, I'm going to stop the share right here. And I'm going to pass it over to Sam. If you have any questions, make sure to put that in the Q&A or in the chat. I'm going to be moderating this whole thing. But with that being said, pass it over to Sam to introduce herself.
Awesome. Thanks, Shiva. My session is called Why Should Anyone Be Led by You? Because I firmly believe that in order to lead others, we need to lead ourselves first. So we need to learn about what makes us tick. What are our character traits? What are our passions and motivations? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? All of those things, and understand how we operate before we can then start leading others and managing others, especially in the workplace. I'll go over a little bit about who I am in just a second. So this is an overview of what we'll talk about for the next hour. We'll do an energizer. We'll watch, hopefully, a video if my sound is working. Why management is the hardest job. Self-awareness and the foundation of leadership. We'll do a character traits check and we'll talk about why that matters. Then true colors. If you've taken it with me already, totally fine. If you don't do it or if you'd like to take it again, you can see if your traits have changed over the last semester or year or two. And then we'll finish talking about the foundational skills for emotional intelligence, because great leaders have really high emotional intelligence. So what you'll get out of this session today are just, I'm not going to read these word for word, but you'll recognize the importance of self-leadership and identify ways to apply the principles to your personal and professional lives. I guarantee you that you'll see positive change in all aspects of your life. You will gain insight into your current level of self-awareness, understand its significance in leadership and decision-making. You'll identify your character traits, like I said, your strengths and weaknesses, how that influences your leadership style and relationships. And I have a ton of other stuff on leadership styles, but that's a session for another time. And then identify what your personality type is, understand the other personality types, and then we'll talk about how we can learn to work more effectively with others. Then understand the core importance of EI, so self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, social skills, motivations. And then lastly, just synthesize insights from this workshop to create your own personal plan for further developing your self-leadership, your self-awareness, and your EI so you can be a more effective leader. So who am I? I'm a lecturer in the College of Business. I've been teaching since 2019. I've been full-time since fall of 2023. And my leadership journey began when I did the National Outdoor Leadership School. And I was a sophomore in college and I dropped out for a semester because I just was not, higher ed was not the place for me to be at the time. And that's where I started taking a lot of self-management, leadership, decision-making, risk-taking classes. And then I returned to school, received my degree in education with a focus in youth leadership, because everything that I learned when I did the National Outdoor Leadership School is what I wanted to do with kids. And so after my bachelor's, I went and did AmeriCorps. I was on a trail crew team here in the Reno, Tahoe area because I needed to gain more experience in the outdoors to work with kids. And so after that experience, went and got my master's degree at UW Milwaukee, and it was administrative leadership with a focus in youth serving nonprofits. So then from there, moved out to Reno. I've done the Club Directors Institute through the Boys and Girls Club. I've been in leadership programs in the Tahoe Truckee area. And then recently I just obtained my certification and program completion for community engaged teaching here at the university. So that's me in a nutshell. I teach business communications at the university. So if you're a business student, you've probably seen me and received emails from me or had class with me. So a little bit about myself. I also, some personal things, excuse me. I have two daughters, Ella and Zoe, they're 5 and 6. I love to rescue senior dogs. So I have 3, Mickey, Chewy, and Buttercup, and then I have 7 chickens. So I I'm starting like my own little homestead. I'm looking for 5 acres, but you know, my house and my little cul-de-sac will do it. All right, I see that 3 people raised their hand. I do get a little notification for that, so that's nice. Okay, awesome. I definitely do not. My office is probably more organized and clean than my bedroom at home. It's a disaster. I often cry during sad movies. Okay, I see 4 people raise their hands. Yep, me too. I even like cry at the news. Like if you're crying, I will certainly cry. I would go hiking right now if I could, or do something spontaneous. There doesn't have to be any planning to it. You just get up and go. Oh, we got quite a few spontaneous people in the room. Awesome. Me too. Okay. I discuss intellectual ideas more often than relationship issues.
That's so me, Sam.
Yeah, I'm more of like, let's talk about our feelings. I'm a relationship person, you guys. My top 5 strengths, 4 of them are relationship based. That's how grossly like empathetic and relationship based I am. Okay. I love to watch all kinds of sports. I mean, soccer, not so much, but I do like sports. Okay. I see about 3 people. I think it is more important to be right than liked. I have to be liked. If you had class with me, you know I have a problem with needing to be liked by people. All right. And let's see. I promptly return things that I borrow. I just gave back my neighbor her little banana bread thing. And she gave me that like 3 weeks ago. I laugh a lot. I would say I do. All right. I usually think before I speak. It depends on my mood, how emotional I'm being. I do the dishes as I cook so that when I sit down to eat, the kitchen is already clean. When my husband cooks, it's a disaster. Okay. I hate being late, and it is rare when I am late. I'm the person that's texting like, hey, I'm running behind. But if it's a work meeting though, I usually probably come an hour early just so I can prep and make sure I understand what the meeting's about. I can easily argue both sides of an issue and I like it. Ooh, we got 5 people. I wish I could. I cannot. I get too emotional and then I shut down and then I can't think straight. And then lastly, I'm open-minded to learning something new at this session. Woo, okay. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for participating in that. So we'll move on. Okay. So I wanted to share this quote with you because I love Forbes. Forbes is a very credible resource. And there was this article on the importance of self-leadership. And so I'm just going to read this. In the end, the best leaders have first mastered leading themselves. By being self-aware and making your own decisions, you become accountable for your actions. You motivate yourself to push forward and build your self-regulation and communication skills. And I like this quote because how can we expect to motivate others or others to be motivated, or if we expect others to hold themselves accountable, if we aren't doing that ourselves first? So I think we need to sit back and really think, oh, do I hold myself accountable for my actions and my behaviors? Am I as motivated as I want my team to be motivated? So I think first it starts with us. We're going to watch Why Middle Management is the Hardest Job by Simon Sinek.
Middle management is the hardest job in any organization. Because when you're junior, your only job is really to do your job. That's it. And you get trained how to do your job. I mean, you all have to be licensed and go to school and learn how to do the job of being an accountant. And if you're really good at it, you eventually get promoted. And you eventually get promoted to a position where you're now responsible for the people who do the job you used to do. But the problem is they don't give us any training how to do that. You know, and senior people are thinking about entirely different things. They're thinking about the firm, they're thinking about strategy. And the problem is, so you have this middle group that's in this sort of weird mix where they're they have to be strategic, but not majority strategic, and they have to be tactical, but they're not majority tactical, and they have to translate what's going up here to down there and down here to up here, and most things break in the middle, because I'll meet firms where the leadership's amazing and they're visionary and they care about people and they want to do the right thing, and then I go down to the front line and they're like, yeah, this place is the worst. And so I'm like, what happened between here and there? And it's the middle. Most things break in the middle. And so I think there are two factors. One is we don't train people how to lead, right? So as I said before, when you were junior, we have to know what to do. We just do our jobs, we have to be good at it. And as we become leaders in this middle management, we're now transitioning to this job. We're now responsible for the people who do the job we used to do, but nobody is teaching us listening. Nobody's teaching us communication skills. Nobody's teaching us effective confrontation. Nobody's teaching us how to give and receive feedback. Nobody's actually teaching us leadership. So this is why we get managers and not leaders. And like, you would never ask somebody to do anything in accounting without showing them how to do it. Ever. Bad idea, right? So why on earth do we think that we can just promote someone to a leadership position and expect that they know what to do without showing them how to do it? So that's problem number one, is the total vacuum in some cases, or just really minimal amounts of leadership training. And it needs to be robust. The other problem that I come across very often is I get some really wonderful self-taught leaders in middle management. They're reading books, they're going to conferences themselves, they're watching TED Talks. I mean, they're students of leadership, they have mentors. I mean, they're really making a go of it, and they complain that the senior management, all they care about is the quarterly earnings. And so the problem we have there is they're trying so hard to do the right thing, but management really doesn't care. So that's the opposite, right? And in those cases, I generally recommend that the right thing to do. I mean, quitting is always an option, but that's not necessarily the best option or the first option. But I always recommend to be the leader you wish you had, which is I get the question. It is one of the, if not the most common question I get, which is, what do I do when I'm trying to do the right thing and my boss or my boss's boss or my boss's boss's boss just don't get it? You know, all they care about is money before people. And the answer is you can't control what you can't control. So worry about the people around you. Worry about the people to the sides of you, a level below you, even a level above you, and you be the leader you wish you had. And what you start to find in those pockets is these magical little diamonds in the rough appear. We worked with a large technology company, and we worked with a group where that's exactly what we did. We developed this whole leadership thing just for this little group in the middle. And yes, they started to do better and their numbers went better and the group expanded and blah, 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 all the things you'd expect to happen. But one thing we didn't expect is that the phone started ringing off the hook from other people in the firm asking, can I get a job in your group? Because when the people who worked in this group would go out for lunch with their friends who worked in other groups, you know, how's work today? Amazing.
Different stories, right?
Different stories. And all of a sudden, word spread across this 80,000 person company. And this is only a group of 150 people. Word spread across this 80,000 person company that everybody was trying to get into this group just because they wanted to work in it, because you had good leadership.
Right.
All right. So I love,
Most people have no clue that in 2024, the best way
Hang
to
on.
make money with Amazon is not with physical products.
there we go. Okay. So I love sharing that video with groups because I think a lot of times, you know, we talk about leadership and management, and although they are very similar, they are also very different. And what I love about my job, not just in these sessions and consulting in the community, but even in the class that I teach, I do get to teach listening. I legit have a chapter on how to listen. Communication is the class that I teach, and giving and receiving feedback. So these are all things as leaders, as managers, we have to take into consideration because we expect our teams to listen, right? We expect people to communicate with us in a certain way, but how can we have that expectation if we don't understand how we communicate to other people? So I heard this quote once and I've always loved it. And it's, we lead people, we manage things, or we manage tasks. So that's just to give you a perspective, a different perspective. Okay, so great leadership starts with self-awareness. That's where it begins. Simon Sinek, he was talking about those folks that are self-starting or they're being self-taught. So are you being that lifelong learner? Are you seeking out other opportunities and taking that initiative to learn some of these things, to learn what it takes to be a good leader and a good manager? So authenticity and integrity. Are you who you say you are? Are you honest and do you have high morals? Emotional regulation and stability. I have an amazing TED Talk I show every semester by Louise Evans just on emotional regulation and owning your behaviors. Are you in control of your emotions or are they in control of you? I think we can all reflect on an experience we've had with either a loved one, a friend, or someone in our workplace where maybe we had an incident that someone was triggered and blew up and was angry or had a meltdown or whatever you want to call it. You know, are your emotions in control of you or are you in control of your emotions? Better decision making. Are you gathering the relevant, correct information before jumping to conclusions? Are you considering potential consequences and seeking different perspectives before jumping to conclusions? Empathy and understanding others. Empathy is like the number one thing in leaders, is being able to place yourself in somebody else's shoes and see things from their reality, from their perspective. Personal growth and adaptability. Are you actively working to improve? All of you in this session, you chose to be here. That's amazing. That first step, taking that initiative. And are you able to adjust to new conditions and environments? And then lastly, enhanced communication skills. Are you practicing your active listening, getting rid of all distractions so that you can listen? Are you aware of your body language and your nonverbals? And are you being open to different perspectives and when you're listening to somebody else? So leaders who start with self-awareness, they are better equipped to lead others effectively. They inspire trust and respect, and they motivate those they lead. So now jumping into that character traits check. And if you haven't already, you can go right ahead and click on that Google link that I put in the chat, and it'll take you to a document that's called the True Colors Personality. But I like to do the character traits check because it's an assessment of your core values, your integrity, your honesty, your responsibility, your interpersonal skills, an assessment of your work ethic, like your dedication, your initiative, evaluation of your EI skills. So that's self-regulation and self-awareness. And then lastly, assessment of your leadership traits, your vision, courage, maybe fairness, and you can start to see which of these traits are your top strengths, and then how do you maximize them? So before we dive into True Colors and have you take the assessment, I just wanted to share why doing things like this matters. So according to the World Economic Forum, 44% of executives believe that leadership, character, and integrity are the most important traits for fostering innovation. And then Deloitte, which is a huge consulting firm, a study that they did shows that 87% of executives believe that a strong character is crucial during a crisis. So somebody who can take a step back and be calm and rational. And then research by KRW International shows that I love this statistic actually. It shows that companies with leaders who scored high on character had an average return of assets of 9.35%. So that's nearly 5 times higher than companies with low character leaders. So leaders who are more attuned to themselves, more familiar with their strengths, with their weaknesses, that self-awareness and regulation, had more return on their assets. So just goes to show how important emotional intelligence really is. And so now diving into the True Colors inventory, I am a certified facilitator, woo! And I do this out in the community as well. So if you end up really liking this and it works for you, please, give my name out to people. So what it is, it's an inventory designed to help you better understand yourself and others. There is a ton of research. I mean, this goes back to like the 1950s and Myers-Briggs. So there's a whole history lesson on True Colors, and it's actually a 2 to 3 hour session, and I'm doing it in like 30 minutes. So it helps you better understand yourself and others. It's an activity used to promote individual differences, a self-awareness activity, and you just become aware of different personality styles. Like, what's really great, you guys, is you'll be able to analyze your friends now and your professors, people you work with. You're going to be like, oh, that's why you are the way you are. And it really does help us see other perspectives. And then it's a team building exercise. It's really fun for large groups because there's all sorts of activities. So have you ever, just think of these questions. Have you ever encountered that one person with whom you just couldn't communicate? Could be your mom, could be your girlfriend, could be a professor or your boss. Had days when you felt you weren't, or that you were speaking a foreign language and no one else could understand you. You guys, my husband, yes, there's sometimes where I'm like, you just are not getting, like, you're not understanding the meaning behind my words. Tried to get a coworker to understand your point of view to no avail, or even a friend too. And then just consider each person approaches projects and conversations differently, and that sometimes understand how you may be perceived can help you understand how to better communicate with others. So we're going to talk about perception.
Companies today are finding it challenging to connect with an increasingly dynamic and more remote workforce. Employees feel less connected and engaged, causing company culture and performance to suffer. Organizations are healthier when they are more diverse and more effective when each member feels understood, appreciated, and is fully engaged. The first step to cultivating a winning culture is recognizing the individual strengths and styles of each team member. Companies that can identify and understand each individual employee's values, joys, strengths, and stressors can create a corporate culture that is healthy, inclusive, and sustainable. A culture that honors and trusts team members while celebrating their differences. Discovering your employees' unique strengths and approach to work can be a challenge, but is essential for building engagement, job satisfaction, and unity. For over 40 years, True Colors programs have utilized a proprietary methodology and innovative toolset to maximize your most important resource, your people. We help your organization create a culture where every employee feels understood and appreciated. True Colors will enhance your organizational culture through better communication, robust personal connection, and sustainable growth in real teamwork. The True Colors methodology has been utilized to drive personal awareness and empathy on the individual level and to transform cultures for businesses and organizations of all shapes and sizes. People who have the orange personality type are fun, energetic, and spontaneous. Gold personalities are punctual, precise, and organized. Greens are visionaries, intuitive, and analytical. And blues are empathetic, supportive, and compassionate. While we all have a dominant primary color, every person has a full True Colors personality spectrum. Pulling from all colors makes you a more effective person. In the same way, every organization as a whole also possesses its own spectrum of complementary colors. From Fortune 500 companies and local businesses to schools and universities to government, healthcare, and even family settings, the True Colors methodology scales and customizes seamlessly to meet the challenges your culture faces today. Our system has inspired many imitators, but has never been equaled in effectiveness, depth, and inclusivity. Valuing differences, creating unity.
Right. So True Colors is a really great program. They have tons of assessments for, college students, kids, corporate settings, all types. So, it's super fun to do in really large groups as well. So real quick, just some comic strips here. This first one with the lady in the green tank top. She goes to the grocery store. Let's say it's Costco. Well, hi there. These look delicious. Ugh, horrible, but I don't want to hurt her feelings. I'll take a box. Thanks so much. Now, that is me. That is totally me. I will try to make someone feel so good even if I don't like something. This bottom one with the lady in the pink. This isn't on my list. If I'm not buying it, I shouldn't taste it. And left unrefrigerated, they've probably gone bad, and no coupon, no thank you. Definitely my mother-in-law. I know my students have heard that before because it totally is her. And then on top here, what do we have here? Cornstarch, sugar, calcium carbonate, some word I can't pronounce. And then doesn't even engage with the person. And then the last guy in the red shirt, I'm starving. Hello, free cookies. Ugh, disgusting. Worst cookie ever. Hello, free cheese. I think we can all think of someone in our circle that fits each of those comic strips. So now what I want you folks to do is take the assessment on the second page. Excuse me. And I'm gonna stop sharing again for a second because I just want to hold up my sheet just so you can better understand. So you see these boxes, these rows. So what you're gonna do in those rows is rank yourself, 4 being the most like you, 1 being the least like you. So for example, in box 1, I would do C, I would give myself a 4. A, I'd give myself a 3. And D, I'd give myself a 2. And then the letter B, I would give myself a 1. So I'm ranking myself from most like me to least like me. And you're going to do that for every row of cluster words. And then at the bottom, how you're going to score yourself. I'm trying to hold this so that it, I'm not the best at this, but at the bottom, to get your orange number, or to get your final number for orange, you take what you rated yourself for the letters A, H, K, N, and S, and you add those together to get your final score for orange, and so on and so forth. So I'll share my screen again with the instructions. And for the sake of time, I will continue moving on. So it's up to you if you want to continue working on this. And blue is essentially someone who asks, how does that make you feel? Orange is just do it. Nike, right? Gold is very prepared. They always have a plan B. And then green is always asking why. So to go over these different personality types, and if you know what your personality type is, go ahead and throw it in the chat. I'm a blue. I'm a very blue person. So greens, they see themselves as 98% right. They have superior intellect. They're powerful, they're efficient and unique. They are calm and rational. They don't bring emotion into things, which is why they're very difficult to argue with. Let's see. John, I remember you being a blue. And then greens are under control. They're able to find flaw objectively. So, right, they take the emotion out of things, and then they hold firm to policy. But here, others might see them, and please, if you're a green, do not take this the wrong way. All of the colors, we're not going to take the perception of how other people see us the wrong way. But greens are seen as being arrogant, maybe afraid to open up. They're unappreciative, doesn't consider other people in plans. They might sound critical or like they're finding the fault in everything, and they're cool, aloof, and unfeeling. But one thing I want to say about when we're talking about perception, so if I'm a green person, what am I going to do to make sure that other people don't perceive me in this manner? I'm not saying to change your personality type, but I think here you can see where miscommunication can happen, because I'm sure a green is like, well, that's not how I am. And you're right, that's not how you are, but it's that perception. So what can we do to make sure that others see us the way that we want them to see us? So gold, they are stable, they provide security, they see themselves as being dependable and firm. They always have an opinion. They're efficient, realistic, and very decisive. They're the executive type, so very administrative. A lot of people here at the university, if they're in an administrative role, I bet they're a gold. They are a good planner, they're orderly and neat, and they're punctual, but they also expect the same from other people. And someone like me who's a blue is like, that's not realistic. Others see them as controlling and bossy and maybe rigid. They hold firm to policy just like greens do. They're your policy procedure people. They're opinionated and stubborn, system bound, unimaginative, limiting flexibility, so they don't like the change of plans. Whereas when you get to blue and orange, you'll see how we're more of the adaptable, flexible people. They set their own agenda, and then they have a rigid idea of time. So I always share this example because it's so it happened and it's very true to the personality types. But I apologize to the students who've heard this, but when I was planning my wedding, Jeremy and I, my husband, we had our dinner tasting, and his parents were coming along with my parents. And we get a text message from his mom saying that they're there at the venue already, which is 15 minutes before the dinner tasting started. And I was like, we haven't even left my house yet, because I lived 15 minutes away. We were literally like walking out the door. But that's just the difference between our personalities. And then blue, we see ourselves as warm, caring, and compassionate, very empathetic. We like to please people, trusting, romantic and spiritual, creative, people person, very talkative, willing to work tirelessly for a cause. So a lot of folks who are blue work in nonprofits or in social cause settings, and they want harmony. So they don't like conflict. So if, let's say, a gold and a green are having this debate or having some sort of conflict over a work issue, a blue is just like, oh my gosh, why can't we all just get along? But others might see us as over emotional, we're mushy and naive, which I will admit I am. Smothering or too nice. They ignore policy because they bring their emotion into things, but then that can create chaos. They talk too much. I got in trouble in 6th grade all the time for talking too much. And they're illogical. They're not rational because they are too emotional. So orange, you see yourself as, they see themselves as fun and loving, spontaneous. They enjoy life. They're a here and now person, a good negotiator. They do many things at once, so they multitask. They're problem solvers and proficient. But others might see them as irresponsible and flaky and not serious and like doing too many things at once and like doing too many things that they enjoy. That they're manipulative when really they're just really good talkers. They're smooth talkers. I think a lot of people who are orange, they probably have the strength. It's woo, the word woo. They're not able to stay on task and they might appear cluttered and indecisive, but an orange person is probably like, no, that's how I operate the best. So why does this matter? Why are we talking about different personality types? Well, one of the most powerful keys to developing effective leadership ability is self-awareness. So knowing these things now, you're like, huh, yeah, that is how I operate. That is where I am at my best. And just so you guys know, this is a spectrum. So just because you might have one primary color does not mean you don't possess any of the other traits. I know for me, I really do shine bright as a blue, but in my work life, I have to be very gold, which is my last color. So it is very exhausting to be gold, to be neat and orderly and organized in my job, because I teach and I teach 4 classes a semester, on top of all the other tasks that I have. So you do have a little bit, it just depends on when you have to pull from them. So knowing these things about each other and ourselves can help us work with each other better, because now I guarantee you, you can understand when you're in a group setting and you're working on a group project in your class this semester, you'll be able to see how other people operate, communicate more effectively, understand where others are coming from. So if someone does ask why, now you understand why. Management and leading are all about personalities. If you take a personality test, you'll understand yourself better. You'll develop an instinct about your coworkers' personalities, and you'll learn what makes people tick. So like what might trigger them. And then it showcases your strengths and weaknesses. So now you can learn how to use the strengths of the people on your team. So for instance, I'm not a budget person. Numbers are not my jam, but on the previous team I was on, my coworker who loved math, I would always go to her for help if I needed a second set of eyes on my budget to make sure I was doing everything correctly. So use the strengths of the people around you. And then make the colors you work with happy. So greens, provide feedback on the quality of their work that they've done. Provide assistance in choosing tasks that are difficult and challenging, but also achievable. And then golds, you might need to provide a little bit of consistency. So if at a staff meeting, if you're a blue and you are the manager of your team and you have golds, then maybe you should provide more structure for a staff meeting to make those golds happy. Give clear and specific feedback, establish what the rules and regulations are, and provide concrete rewards for success. And with blues, you just need to reassure them of their worth. You need to recognize their accomplishments, big or small. You need to accept who they are and provide a harmonious environment. So if there is a conflict, are you addressing that conflict or are you letting it fester? And then oranges, they need frequent change, challenge their imagination, give them autonomy and freedom to do the things that they enjoy, and then create opportunities for competition and recognition. This is how you're going to make all the folks on your team happy. And then as you guys go through the packet as well, there's tons of other content and resources for you. So what's next? You're like, okay, what do I do with this information now? Well, owning our behaviors and traits. I highly recommend the Louise Evans TED Talk. I don't have the link, but I put her name in the chat for you. So recognizing our interpersonal skills, how we communicate, how we collaborate with other people. I'm very relationship oriented and I want people to like me so bad. And then how do we build relationships with other people? And I know for a fact that when I was working with engineers and I would go into meetings with faculty, I knew that they did not want to hear about my day. They did not want to become my friend. They did not want to hear about my kids. They don't care. They just wanted to know, what are we meeting about and what is it that I need to provide to you? And I knew, and so going into a meeting with them, I knew exactly what to put on the agenda, only to schedule the meeting for 30 minutes. And when I walked into that person's office, I wouldn't just start talking about my day. I would just ask how they're doing and get right down to business because that's how their mind works. And then maximizing our strengths and utilizing those in others. And it is all emotional intelligence. Start practicing these things now. Like I said, even in college, in your small groups of working with other students, or if you're an entrepreneur, start with your team, your small team that you might have. Just choose, choose, the 1 to 2 or 3 things that you want to focus on and address those first. And then signs of emotional intelligence. I think we can all think of people who often feel misunderstood. Maybe that's ourselves. They get upset easily. They get become overwhelmed by their emotions and they shut down, or they have problems being assertive. So those are people with low EQ. People with high EQ, they understand the links between their emotions and how they behave. They hold themselves accountable for those behaviors. They remain calm and composed during stressful situations. And then are able to influence others toward a common goal, and then handle difficult people with tact and diplomacy. And Lisandro, I just saw your chat, so thank you. And then, I mean, that all sounds like great leadership, right? It's high EQ. And going back to handling difficult people, I think we can all think of a handful, and I certainly can. And I'll never forget the feedback that I received on a team that I was on when I was doing trail work. And I worked with the most difficult person I've ever worked with. And when I went to meet with my team leaders, because there was some conflict and I didn't know that there was conflict going on, but they came to me to ask me about my experience about working with this person. And I was like, well, I was like, I just handle it and deal, like, that person has their own stuff going on and I just treat everyone the way I want to be treated, but I was still struggling with working with this person. And so I was honest and told them about my challenges. And they said, we never would have thought that you were having a problem. And I was like, well, thank you. I'm glad that I was able to hold back those emotions for being such an emotional person. It was just really good feedback to receive. So with that, this is my last slide, Shiva, and you guys, I really just want to share that it starts with you, and you all have a leadership style, and you might not just have discovered it yet. Peter Nordhaus has an excellent textbook. It's there's like 8 editions now. It's so many different leadership styles. Now that you know your personality type, go start reading about leadership styles and which one fits you best. So to be good with others, you first must be good with yourself. And today you took that step to learn these things. And now you just got to continue to grow and maximize those strengths. So.
Hey, Sam, we have a question in the Q&A from Mel. She says, can we have 2 colors?
Yes, you can. That is a really great question. So if you have the same number for more than one color, it just means that you pull equally from those personality types, which makes you a very well-rounded person. Not to say, other people aren't well-rounded, but it's the same with my husband. I swear he's like equal with all of his colors. But yeah, it just means that you do a really good job of balancing both.
Hey, Sam, I have a quick question for you since we have some time.
Sure.
Coming at it as someone who's worked with startups, and oftentimes I engage with small businesses and startups, how can a business owner or a co-founder utilize these true colors in the hiring process, in the interviewing process of candidates?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'm actually covering that in class next week. So I didn't cover it last semester, but I squeezed it in for spring. So it depends on it depends on which one you're using. So aptitude tests are for testing your technical skills, and personality tests are to see how well a candidate can fit into a specific role. So I think it's really good to identify, like if you're looking for jobs, for instance, and you want to take some personality tests, going to look at the company's culture, their mission, their values, seeing if it aligns with yours. But in terms of using it as an entrepreneur hiring other people, I think it's great to see where that candidate can fit within your company. So like an orange, for instance, would be probably great for marketing. A gold would be,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like gold would be really good for administrative tasks, like an office manager.
Mm.
Blue would probably be a great project manager or overseeing a team, and doing like HR, maybe performance evaluations, focusing on those things. Greens would be really great for solving problems, identifying issues and challenges, and technical skills. A lot of like information systems folks are green, so.
Are a lot of kind of a little small follow-up question, are a lot of CEOs tend to be greens, since they are kind of a lot of those problem solvers, thinkers,
You know,
as you
I
just
actually
mentioned?
have no idea. That's a great question.
Mm,
I
mm.
could probably like ask ChatGPT and they could find me, but
Right.
yeah, and I think it depends on the field as well.
Mm,
Like I think
gotcha.
some fields might be heavier with a certain color than others, but
Okay.
there's definitely a mix. But I think like in engineering, for instance, it's probably green heavy.
Mm,
Business, could see being very gold and, a mix actually. There's a lot of different industries and fields in business. But yeah,
I
like
was gonna say I'm worried. I'm in business and I'm a green.
mhm. Yep, and you were
So,
a engineer before this.
yes.
Still
That
an
was my
engineer.
past life.
Yeah. Yep. I used to be very close with blue and orange, but
Okay.
my blue has taken off. I think it's because I'm a mom now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Sam? All right. That is it for today's class. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. We have some cool webinars coming up in the future. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you on the next class. Thanks again, Sam.
Thanks.